Hello, everyone. Several of you have mentioned the importance of leadership for creating the conditions to have the best talent working in our organizations. Leaders, after all, are the ones who create the conditions for organizations to develop a clear and inspiring vision and to create the environment for good ideas to flourish and to transform into better policies. However, I believe that we know very little about how to develop leadership for think tanks. I don't know in Africa or Asia, but in Latin America we have MBAs, and they train the people that go to the private sector. We have MPAs, and they train the people who work in the government. But we don't have something that we can call MTT, the people that are experts in leading and managing think tanks. So given this challenge, we would like to pose these questions in order to invite you to share your experiences, your ideas about how to develop leaderships, how to nurture leaders with the capacity to amplify the collective intelligence, the passion, the commitment that we were talking about before. Just to start the conversation, I would like to share with you a very short story that comes from our organization in Ecuador, from Grupo FARO. In October of last year, in 2011, we measured for the first time the work environment in the organization. And that was using anonymous survey that was responded for everyone in the organization. All the staff responded to them. And we got very low results. And basically, when we analyzed the results, what the staff was telling us is that they wanted better leadership. Leaders, and by leadership I mean the executive direction and the heads of the different areas in the organization. Leaderships with the capacity to listen more, with the capacity to create the conditions for a collective process of developing a collective vision of the organization. Leaders that are able to mentor young researchers. Leaders with the capacity to see that people in our organization should be, yes, good researchers, but also good communicators, good networkers, to see the integrality of the people that should work in a think tank. So after that, we diagnosed the leadership styles that we had in the organization. And we discovered that the heads of the organization and the different areas has very strong skills, but we needed to develop some abilities to create the conditions for young research to work better. Since we don't have a training program that is specialized in think tanks, right now we are starting to develop a training program within the organizations that is focused, at least at the beginning, on the leaders of the organizations in order to develop their capacities to attract talent and to help researchers to become what we call policy entrepreneurs. People that are good researchers, good communicators, good managers, good networkers, because we believe that that's the kind of people we need to attract and maintain in other organizations. So I just want to share that experience with you. It's a challenge that we are facing in this organization. I think there is an opportunity to work together to think how can we create the conditions for training better leadership from organizations, maybe in alliance with universities. That would be better if we can do something that benefit the think tanks in different regions. But now I would like to invite you to share ideas, experiences about the role of leaders and the challenge of leadership in your organizations. The floor is open.
Thank you. This is an important topic. One thing I want to say that of course, it's very important for a leader or a head of an organization to be a nice person and not be dictatorial and not throw you out of the room and that kind of stuff. But I think also what seems to me to be important is that the leader should be, in her or his capacity as a leader, as less of a specialist as possible. In a sense that, which means that she or he should be able to see that in their organization, there are different kinds of perspectives, people with different kinds of disciplinary perspectives, and be able to take that on. So the leader may well be an economist or a sociologist or political scientist, but in her or his capacity as a leader should be as less of a specialist as possible, that is the environment that I have found that actually encourages people to interact with that leader and opens up new possibilities of research, because then the leader doesn't sort of say, look, I'm an economist, and if you're thinking of qualitative research, well, this is not going to work. This is not how policy works. So one of the things I find very useful is someone who is not completely wedded to her or his original disciplinary training, but is broader, even though they may not know very much about the broad areas, but is open to the ideas that there are other points of view in an organization.
Yeah, I agree, but I would like to add that if someone will have to be perceived to be a leader in his or her area, he or she will have to be, of a different caliber in order for the others, because we are talking about leadership in a think tank. People will be, those who will be working with you will be the researchers, and they will, of course, value if in your own field you are an authority. So whilst it is true that one will have to have a broader if he wants to be a leader, but in a particular field, I think the authority of that particular person in his or her particular domain is very important for others to accept them as leader.
It's difficult to generalize whether, the leader of a think tank should be more of a specialist in the area of research or should have better expertise in organizational development. It's actually very difficult to generalize, and I think a balance of both is required. A certain minimum expertise in the area of research is necessary, without which the leader would not be taken seriously, and also a minimum understanding and sensitivity towards organizational development is required. And the other thing I would like to highlight is the ability to motivate team members. There are some team members who are self-motivated, and they are the best assets for the organization. But there are always some people who are talented, but they lack that high level of motivation. And I think the leader of the organization should be able to identify some of the causes for lack of motivation and address those. Motivation does make a lot of difference.
I think leadership is also means that there is a continuous dialogue between you and your staff. There should not be the kind of distance from the leaders to the down to the researchers. So there is a continuous dialogue, and that dialogue should be there not only at the level, but also leadership means also that you have a continuous dialogue with your board also, board members. Because the board members are very important and they have their own vision and missions which have been set up, and how the leadership is incorporating their diverse experiences and then carrying it in a very friendly way up to the down at the bottom of the institute.
Just a very short comment. You raise a very important point because sometimes when we think in leadership in think tanks, we tend to think in one person, in the executive director. And maybe it's more realistic to think in leadership and that is shared by several people. You mentioned the board, and several of organizations have different areas, and they have heads. So the challenge may be to develop that more collective and shared leadership.
Thank you very much. I think I very much support the idea of continuous dialogue with the staff and the members of the management. I think there's also something called emotional intelligence. I think that where the leader, you basically need to know some about your staff who is having a problem at home, if you have ways of knowing that, and even a call when somebody is in hospital, it really makes a big difference in terms of how the staff feel appreciated. So the leaders to really not sleep when others are sleeping, in terms of really knowing what's happening. There is also what you said about getting regular staff surveys, so that you're able to get people who want to complain. They can do it anonymously, and then you're able to pick up things. And also, even in getting views from your clients, so that sometimes it moderates, because I think in the organization, people might think the situation is bad and the way it is really, the way other people are seeing it. And if they see the results from outside are much more positive and all that, it helps to temper the, I think, maybe some negative feelings and all that. So there is also, I think the biggest problem I've seen is where you have the leaders of various departments or divisions, like you mentioned in your case. There can be a breakdown in the communication at that level, and that is one of the most important areas. I think we are experimenting with demanding regular, monthly meetings in each of the departments or divisions, and where they can discuss and keep minutes. It becomes easier to follow up, and it also really makes sure that you provide a forum for those below to speak to their supervisor. So I think we are trying still checking how that is going to help.
Thank you. I think a leader should be flexible to different circumstances that the employees are going through, but encourage them to be open and also be open to them. Should be understanding, because sometimes it's not only about capacity, but it's also about you, the leader yourself. He or she should give credit to the person who performed well, but I think most importantly, should be firm and, if necessary, take tough decisions in complicated circumstances that might compromise the institution. So that's very important.
So I think that if you want to take leadership more seriously in your organization, we need to learn how to talk about it more frankly. Like, we're really good at having intellectual conversations in most think tanks, but it's unlikely that you'll get a boss that will tell you, you need to develop your assertivity, you need to, all those things that go beyond your research ability. And I think it requires you to be open to talking about these things that are not in the realm of academy that we're usually leave behind. So.
I think to be a good leadership includes the possibility to listen and see, like the big picture, and understand what is the people that we are talking about. Sometimes some things function with some assistants or with some juniors, but sometimes it's not the same thing that they need. So we have to first focus on those people that we have, trying to identify the characteristics of the people that we have, and try to polish their mistakes in the job, and trying to improve their abilities all the time, and trying to understand that we are just trying to improve them. I think if we can focus on that, we can develop different type of leaderships in the same organization, and different type of ways of link the leaders in the organization.
thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and reflection about this, we believe, very important issue. I would like to finish by sharing with you one Argentinian cartoon that now I think is well known in all over the world, Mafalda. She said to her brother, I have the solution for our country. They create a school for presidents of the country. And they say, yeah, great idea. But there is a problem. Who is going to be the teachers? So I think there is an opportunity for us to learn from each other because it's very tough to be the leaders of think tanks. Thank you so much.